करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये चैतन्यं सर्वगं सर्वं सर्वभूतगुहाशयं यत्सर्वविषयातीतं तस्मै सर्वविदे नमः। In the verse 50, we are told Chaitanya bhasata buddhe atmana tat swarupata syat. If buddhi is such that it reflects the Chaitanya or consciousness, meaning buddhi is possessed of the reflection of Chaitanya or consciousness, this is so. Atmana tat swarupata, and Atma of Atma tat swarupata. Atma's swarupa, the essential nature of Atma, is tat or consciousness. If this is so, consciousness is the essential nature of the self, and it is the nature of buddhi to reflect consciousness. If this is so, then tam jnana shabdaischa vedah shastriti yujyate, then we will show how tam atma, the atma, the chaitanya, vedah shastri, the Veda teaches, instructs about the nature of Atma. The Veda enables us to know the nature of Atma with the help of the words jnanam itya jnana shabdaischa. With the help of the words such as jnanam, which is mainly the word that is satyam, jnanam, anantam, nitya, shuddha, all these words are there. Which word jnanam is taken up here for main discussion because it applies to buddhi as well as it applies to Atma. Yujyate, then it is proper that the Veda or Upanishad can illumine us, can convey to us or help us know the nature of the self with the help of the words jnanam, etc. Otherwise not. Buddhi is there and Atma, these two entities are there, we know. The author shows how neither Buddhi nor Atma, in neither of them the word jnanam can apply in any sense. Therefore, the word jnanam can primarily apply only to Chidabhasa, Vachyasa, and then Chidabhasa reveals itself to be consciousness. What is meant by Lakshyartha is that Chidabhasa, where word jnanam applies, which is now a combination of Chit and Abhasa or Buddhi, we are told that that is jnanam. How can that be jnanam? So then you focus attention on Chidabhasa and recognize that there is an element which is not jnanam. Element that is jnanam. So this is how the bhaga, tyaga, lakshana would take place. Bhaga, you retain the jnanam aspect of Chidabhasa. Tyaga, you give up meaning that, give up the identification with, or giving reality to the akara or the visheshata of that Chidabhasa. That is how Chidabhasa reveals itself to be Atma, because the refraction reveals itself to the image. All the reflection, the image is there, but here where Chidabhasa is, that leads, of course, leads to the image there also. Just a reflection in a pool of water leads us to the image which is what is reflected. So the Chidabhasa is not Atma. Chidabhasa is in fact Dushyam, but still a focus upon Chidabhasa. A contemplation upon what is the essential nature of Chidabhasa. How it is a union of or mixture of Satyam and Mithya. How recognizing Mithya as Mithya, the Akara, the Achetanatva, and focusing attention only on the Satyam is consciousness, ultimately brings back to the self. Pratibodha viditam matam. Bodham bodham prati viditam. So the bodha is every vritti with reflected consciousness that arises. And that reflection ultimately leads me to myself. So this is how the communication, so this is what the author explains. How the Shruti communicates and helps us understand, know the nature of the self. Even though self cannot be the primary meaning of any word, and still those words can lead us to the knowledge of the essential nature of the self, which is the agenda, which is what is sought to be accomplished. So in the process of how can we then withdraw attention from everything else, so says Prakriti Pratyayartha, so says explains here how a word does not primarily apply to any one thing, just as the expression gacchati, karoti, janati. There is no one entity where gacchati, karoti, janati is applied. Although in Vyavahara we say Devdatta gacchati, Devdatta goes. And so we feel that gacchati, for the act of going, Devdatta is the locus or the ashraya. This is how the Vyavahara is understood. But what is Devadatta? Devadatta is Chidabhasa as well as Chit. So the author says that neither Chidabhasa can primarily be the locus of Gacchati, nor Chit can be, because Chit is changeless and therefore Gacchati, which involves change, doesn't apply. Gacchati involves Gam, which is Prakriti, and Thing, which is the Pratyaya. So Prakriti and Pratyaya, both of them cannot apply to Devadatta. Who is Devadatta? Buddhi is Devadatta. Then Buddhi cannot go. Buddhi can change but cannot go. Atma can go but then cannot change. Therefore Gacchati does not have one locus. Gacchati has two locuses, locuses. Gam and Ti. The Ti is the Kartrutvam. Gacchati, the locus of the act of going, which calls for a change, therefore it applies to Buddhi. And then Gam, going, applies to the Chit. So that is how, even though outwardly it appears that Gacchati has one locus. So that's why the Anayoho Prakriti Pratyashayatvam no loka prayogeshu dushtam. So Atmava Buddhigataha Ting Vachya. That Abhasa with Buddhi is Ting, meaning Kartritva is a primary applies agency. Dhiyo Buddhe Kriya Vritti Rupa Dhatvartah Prakrityartah. The Buddhi, so there is Buddhi and there is Chidamasa. Buddhi undergoes change and therefore the Dhatvartah going, change applies to Buddhi and then gover A applies to the Chidamasa. So that way this Gacchati has two aspects, for there are two ashrayas, two locuses. But since there is taken to be one entity there, we think that Devadatta is one is the ashraya of Gacchati, whereas Gacchati involves two ashrayas, the Buddhi which is the mirror, Chidabhasa reflection, Buddhi can undergo change, and the Prakriti which is the Kriya applies to Buddhi, and the Kartrutva Gacchati applies to the Chidabhasa. Ubhayam cha avivekena. Not recognizing the distinction, they are taken to be one. So Devadatta is a combination of two, and therefore Devadatta is taken to be one ashraya. Tathacha atmabhasa vyapta kriyavat buddhaikya adhyasat. Then both of these are superimposed upon Atma. The Chidabhasa, which involves Buddhi in the place of the mirror, the Abhasa in place of reflection, between two of them become the Ashraya of Gacchati, and identifying these two with Atma, it is said that Atma Gacchati. Devadatta Gacchati, Atma Gacchati. But then, that is the notion that arises on account of identification of what really Gacchati is what? Chidabhasa and Buddhi, which is where primarily Gacchati will apply. Because of identification of that, I think that aham gacchami, Atma is Gacchati or Gacchati. So, Samyak vicharyamane na buddhe avabodhosti na atmano vidyate kriya. Samyak vicharyamane, when you really deliberate upon that with attention, buddhe avabodha chit prakashanasti. Buddhi is unconscious, therefore there is no consciousness in Buddhi. Napi atman avabodha sva kriya vidyate. Atma is pure conscious, therefore there cannot be any change of kriya in Atma. Therefore, nanyantarasyapi, neither Buddhi can primarily be called Gacchati, nor Atma can be primarily called Gacchati. But then Gacchati is a pratiti. The thing is, this act of going is taking place and you can't explain. Buddhi cannot have the kriya of Gacchati going because Buddhi is unconscious. Atma cannot have kriya of going because Atma is changeless. And still, the usage is there, Gacchati, Devadatta Gacchati, Pratiti Matra Sharanaihi. You see, Pratiti, perception is there that someone is going. Aropita tadikya vishayatvam. Therefore, this Chidabhasa and Buddhi, both of them are superimposed upon Atma, and that's how Atma becomes or thought to be the ashraya of both Prakriti and Pratyaya. So, Prakriti is, Buddhi is the ashraya of Prakriti, Chidabhasa ashraya of Pratyaya, and both are superimposed upon Atma, and Atma is thought to be the pratiti. The perception is, or the notion is that Atma is going, Atma is doing. Napyato, so verse 55, Napyato bhava sabdena jnaptiritya viyujyate Nashyatma vikriyamatra nityatma shasanat. In primary sense, no word will apply to Atma or Buddhi. Napi ataha bhava sabdena. So now the word jnanam is explained in various ways. One is what we call the abstract sense of this knowledge. So jnapti, knowing, is the abstract sense of jnanam. Or then the different derivations are janati iti jnah, jnayate anena iti jnanam, janati iti jnanam, jnayate anena iti jnanam, jnayate iti jnanam, and jnapti iti jnanam. This word jnanam can be explained in these four ways. The kartru vyutpatti, janati iti jnanam. What is jnanam? The one who knows is called jnanam. Jnayate iti jnanam, karam vyutpatti. What is known is called jnanam. Jnayate anena iti jnanam, karam vyutpatti. That by which it is known is called jnanam. Or jnapti jnanam, the state of knowing is called jnanam. Basically, the word jnanam can be explained in these four ways. Different people explain the word in different ways and explain this observation. Knows, this fellow knows. I mean, we have to accept that knowing takes place. That someone knows that the other vyavahara cannot be. There is vyavahara of knowledge taking place, vyavahara of going taking place, all vyavahara of activities taking place. And therefore, in some way, to explain how the vyavahara takes place. Generally, it's thought that Atma is doing all the vyavahara. Therefore, the author is analyzing, does this vyavahara really apply to any entity? Can primarily Atma be going, knowing? Can Buddhi be knowing? That means the meaning of the word jna cannot primarily apply to anything. Therefore, we would accept something called adhyasa. So this is how the case is built here. For Chidabhasa, Atmabhasa and Adhyasa. Only when you accept this entities or these principles, then only the pratiti, the vyavahara can be explained. Because looking at the nature of buddhi and atma, these two, looking at their nature, vyavahara cannot be explained because none of them is capable of performing vyavahara. One is unconscious, other is changeless. So somehow there has to be combination of consciousness and change, which cannot be explained other than adhyasa, how change is superimposed upon the changeless. So a new entity. Call it ahankara, call it jivatma, call it samsari. And that is where pratiti. So all the pratiti that you have, all the experience that you have, perception that you have, vyavahara that we have, only this samsari, an imaginary, not a real entity, can alone be all this, the vyavahara karta. Therefore, analyze who is doing this vyavahara, and you will see this combination of satya and mithya. So verse 55 says, Natpyato bhava sabdena jnaptiritya viyujyate savan avyutpatti. Etymologically, one way of explaining what jnana is that bhava sabdena jnaptihi jnanam. That jnaptihi jnanam. Iti Vyutpatyapi Jnanasya Prayogo Atmani na yujyate. Even the state of knowing also involves some action. Knowing also is an action. An action cannot be an Atma. Therefore, Nitya Atma edi. If there is knowing in Atma, then knowing being an action also involves change. Because knowing is an action, any action involves change. And change means it is perishable. Atma becomes perishable if you accept Atma is knowing in a primary sense, and Nitya Atma edi shasanat. Shrutis Atma is Nitya, therefore, the Jnaptihi, knowing, also cannot primarily apply to Atma. Janati Dignya, the Kartru Vitpatti. Janati Dignya, even then Atma Janati, that also cannot be because the knower also has to be changing. Now continuing, so they are also explaining different possible etymological explanations of the word Janati or Jnanam. The word Jnanam can be explained in the various ways by the Vyakarnas and so by the Nyayikas. And therefore Nyayikas take this Janati the Jnanam and say that Jnanam also is the attribute of Atma. In Satyam Jnanamantam Brahma, although Vedanta says Jnanam is Jnapti ultimately, or the consciousness, they say that Atma is a conscious being. So Satyam Jnanamantam, the Naiyayikas would say Jnanam means a conscious being, where knowledge is the attribute of Brahman or Atma. So that is why, going to next verse, Yatha janati iti jnah iti kartru vyutpatya. So one vyutpatti is janati iti jnah, kartru vyutpatti. Jnah or jnanam. Jnapti jnanati bhav vyutpatti, knowing is the bhav vyutpatti, the abstract sense. Atmani jnana anupatti. So earlier was examined whether the kartru vyutpatti janati is it possible, not because that also involves change. Jnapti, knowing, that also is also an action, therefore also involves change. So that also cannot apply. Tatha jnayate karana vyutpatya. That by which something is known is jnanam. Can Atma be the instrument of knowing? Can Atma be knower? Can Atma be knowing? Can Atma be instrument of knowing through which something is known? Or jnayate karma vyutpatti. That which is known, jnayate karma, that which is known is jnanam. Anena, that by which is known is jnanam. Jnate, jnata, the one who knows is jnanam. Or jnapti, four possible explanations are there. So janati iti jnanam, jnayate iti jnanam, jnayate anena iti jnanam, and jnapti iti jnanam. Atmani jnana shabda pravati na yujyate. Any way you look, in primary sense, the word jnanam cannot apply to Atma. So, verse 56. न बुद्धेर बुद्धिवाच्यत्वम् कारणं न ह्यकर्तृकम् नापि ज्ञायते इत्येवम् कर्म शब्दे निरुच्यते. बुध्यते अनया इति बुद्धि or jnayate anaya also. In buddhi we can apply the karana vyutpatti because buddhi is the instrument through which knowledge takes place. Iti buddhi shabda vachyatvam buddhi antahkarana syat. So buddhi can be said to be the instrument with which knowledge takes place. So jnayate anaya or buddhyate anaya. Jnayate, buddhyate is the same thing. So this karana vyutpatti, the instrument through which knowledge takes place, that can primarily apply to buddhi. Na atmanah. This karana vyutpatti cannot apply to Atma. Atma cannot become instrument of knowledge because, again, instrument also must change. Instrument was different from the one who uses that. So then the karta is different, karana is different, karma is different. So what is the reason why the karana vyutpatti, jnayate anena, that by which something is known, Atma cannot fit that description, tatra hetu versus karanam nahi akartrukam. Very interesting explanation. Karanam nahi akartrukam. A karanam instrument always requires the one using the instrument. Like the one splitting the wood with axe. So axe is called karanam. Now karanam meaning axe cannot independently act. You must have a wood splitter or wood cutter who uses the axe to perform the act of cutting or splitting. So karanam, such as an axe, always requires a karta, the one uses it. So nahi karanam akartrukam. A karana cannot independently do things. An axe cannot independently split the wood. You require a wood splitter called karta. In that case, what happens is, says Tika, karana vyutpatte बुद्धि शब्द वाच्य आत्मन करणत्वापत्तौ. So if the word jnanam or buddhi is interpreted as instrument of knowledge, then it will primarily apply to buddhi. Karanatvapattau, then atma becomes karanam, meaning atma becomes that through which action is performed, through which knowledge takes place. Then there must be a karta different from karanam. Whenever there is karanam meaning a tool or an instrument, there has to be one using that instrument. See, Atma also is karanam meaning the means of knowledge. There must be no one who uses that karanam to know. But there is no karta other than Atma. So kartruantar abhavat. Atma alone qualifies to be the karta because everything else is unconscious and karta must be a conscious entity, and therefore if Atma is karanam, then you are looking for who is karta. There is no other entity who is conscious, therefore there is no other karta available. So kartrantar abhavat, there is no karta other than Atma. If Atma is karanam, then no karta is left. Akartrukam karanam syat. In that case, this karanam, this Atma, will be devoid of a karta who will use that karanam. So Atma cannot be karanam. Nahi karanam akartrukam kvachit drishtam ityartha. You never find a karanam which is without karta. The only entity that can be karta is Atma, the conscious entity. No, that itself is karanam, then nobody is left as the karta or as the jnata. Therefore Atma cannot be jnana karanam. So this is one vyutpatti. What is karana vyutpatti? Jnayate aneneti jnanam, that cannot apply to Atma. Can apply to buddhi but not to Atma. Then karma vyutpatti. Jnayate iti jnanam. That which is known is called jnanam. Like here, so in this transaction of my knowing the part, I am the knower, the asha, the locus of the act of knowing. This part is called the object of knowing, jnayate, applies to part. Jnayate anena, that through which part is known can apply to the karanam, my eyes as well as my mind. And jnayate or so jnata, janati applies to me. I am janati, the jnanakarta. The mind and the eyes are karanam, jnayate anena, and this part is jnayate, the object of knowledge. This is the usual setup. So point is, which of these applies to Atma? Now Atma cannot be the jnana karanam because it is the karta other than karanam, that cannot be. Can Atma be object of knowledge? Jnayate aneti jnanamiti karma shabdehi pi Atma nandiruchyate. Atma cannot be object of knowledge because you split Atma into knower and knowledge too, which cannot be. You cannot be your own knower. Vijñātā navare kena vijaniyāt. Therefore, karma shabdaihi api Atma na niruchyate, na samyak uchyate. So Atma cannot be also that which is known, cannot be object of knowledge. Swasya svavidyatva anupattehe. I cannot know myself, I cannot split myself into knower and known. Jnatuntrasya abhavacha, and other than Atma there is no knower. Therefore, na karma vyutpatti. That Atma is that which is known, that also cannot be because you require a knower. See, just as karanam, axe also requires a wood cutter, the wood also requires wood cutter. The axe, the karanam requires the karta, the karma, the object of act of splitting is that wood, that also requires a karta. Because both are inert and the act can be performed by a conscious being. So axe also is not a conscious entity. The wood also is not a conscious entity. That we require this karta, the conscious. Therefore, if you think that Atma is a karanam, Atma is only conscious entity. If that is branded as karanam, then there is no karta left. Atma is thought to be karma, then also there is no karma, because karma also requires karta. So, all these vyutpattis, jnayate anena, jnayate iti, janate iti, and jnapti. These four possible vyutpattis are there. But jnanam, can it primarily apply to Atma? Atma cannot be the immediate meaning vachyartha of any of these words, of any of these explanations. Some new thing is now, jnayate asminiti, this we never thought of, jnayate asminiti, that in which knowledge takes place. Asmin is the seventh adhikarana saptami. So table is adhikaranam for all these parts and things that are here. So jnayate asminiti is a possibility. You apply different vibhaktis. So kartru vibhakti is applied, karma vibhakti is applied, karana vibhakti is applied. No, apadanam cannot be applied, sampasada cannot be applied. So can we apply the adhikarana vyutpatti, seventh case? Exhaust all possibilities. Jnayate asmin iti jnanam. Asmin is that in which something is known, is called jnanam. Iti vyutpantanam asti iti chese, one thing is remaining still. You consider the karta, karma, karanam, but what about the karanam? That one vyutpan, because everybody accepts that chaturthi and panchami and shashti cannot be, but the saptami, tatra vakta, all right. Now how about jnayate asmin iti jnanam? Then tatra vakta, then you have to deliberate, think about this. Adharatva matram jnana sabdena yahuchyate. What is adhikaranam? Jnaya adharatva matram, jnaya means an object. Now this part is on the table. So table is the adhikaranam. You know the locus where the part is? Jnaya adhara matram jnana sabdeha jnana sabdena uchyate. Do you mean that the adhara such as table? which Adhara of the object, which is Jnayam. Is it what you mean by Jnanam? Jnatritva sadi Adharatvam va, or the Atma is Jnanam, at the same time the Adhara or the locus of Jnaya, that is Atma the locus of this object part? Is stable the locus of this part? Nadya Jnaya Ghatadi Adhara Bhutalaha Bhutaladeyapi. But then, if you look at the seventh case, Adhikaranam, then all this Bhutalam means the floor, for example, or the table. Vyutpatti yogat. So, if you take the Adhikarana, Vyutpatti, then all these, and those which are support of the object, they will all become the Jnanam. Jnana Shabda Abhidetva Prasanghat. In that case, every surface will be included by the word Jnanam. Because if Adhikaranam is Jnana, anything can become Adhikaranam. And everything is Adhikaranam of something or the other. Then all those surfaces which support something will be included in meaning of the word Jnanam. So therefore, Jnayat Asmin doesn't make sense. Or Jnatrutva Sati. Is Jnata himself the Adhikarana of Jnanam? Nadvitiya Atmana Jnatrutvasya Nirakrutattvadeti. But then, there is no Jnata. If Jnata is said to be the Adhikarana of Jnanam, but Atma is not Jnata, that we already said that Atma cannot be Jnata, therefore Atma cannot be, even if you want to say Jnata is Adhikarana of Jnanam, Atma does not qualify because Atma cannot be Jnata. Ayam paksha atisthula iti. Therefore, this paksha, Jnayat asmin, atisthula iti acharya. Therefore, Acharya is not considered this Jnayate. So, asmin, that paksha is not addressed here. So, Janati is addressed, Jnapti is addressed, Jnayate anena is addressed, Jnayat is addressed. This stupid thing, Jnayat asmin, is atisthula. That no thinking person will ever think of this possibility. Therefore, Acharya is not, included that in the discussion. So, Acharya upekshita iti. How come Acharya did not take that into account? It is too gross, too idiotic to think that. Therefore, it is not considered. Evam mukshya vritya Jnaya shabdavachyatvam atma na upadyate iti prativadite. In all the discussion now, it is the pratipaditam. It is arrived at, shown how the word jnanam, the mukhya vritya, by any mukhya vritti, by any vitpatti, the word jnanam cannot primarily apply to Atma. The fact remains that the Shruti teaches satyam jnanam, vijnanam anandam. So Shruti uses word jnanam in order to make you see the nature of Atma. And here we find that word jnanam, in whichever way you try to understand, cannot primarily apply to Atma. Iti pratipadite. So Purvapakshi says, now where are you? You say that the Shruti uses the word jnana shabda, jnanadi shabdai. That by words such as jnanam, the Shruti yujyate. Is quite proper that Shruti communicates the nature of Atma with the help of words jnanam, etc. That's what you said. So, for example, just earlier verse. Verse 50, tam jnana sabdesya Veda Shastri iti yujyate. That Veda communicates, teaches the Atma, the whole word such as jnanam is quite proper. How is it proper? You claim that you can justify the use of word jnanam for communicating the nature of Atma. And you yourself have shown that Jnanam cannot mean Atma by any known ways. So you are also in a problem, Siddhanti also is stuck. So, iti tavapi etatulyam. So you Siddhantin, for you also, even though you say that the Shruti communicates the Atma with the help of word Jnanam, how does it do that? You yourself now are showing that Atma cannot be the primary meaning of word Jnanam in any way. Iti ashankya. That's what Purupakshi says. Ishtapatya, good, it's acceptable to us. That Shruti cannot communicate Atma in a primary sense, even by the word Jnanam, is all right with us. That fellow thought you have trapped yourself. You also, you yourself eliminated all possible meaning of word Jnanam with reference to Atma. Then you say Yujyate, you yourself say that it is quite proper that the Shruti communicates Atma with Jnanam. How? Ishtapatti, that not in primary sense, that is quite acceptable to us. So verse 50 says, Na yesham eka evatma nirdukho vikriya sada tesham syat shabdavachyatvam Jneyatvam chatmanas sada. Yesham ekaheva atma nirdukkaha avikriya sada. Na tesham syat sabdavachyatvam. That nakara goes that way. So Tika says, Yesham mate Eka eva atma sada nirdukha avikriya. Yesham mate, according to in whose opinion or whose understanding, Atma is one non-dual, nirdukha ever devoid of sorrow, which is Vedanta's view. Yesham mate. Tesham atmava shabda tesam syat sadvacya na tesham syat sabdavachyatvam. For Vedantin, for whom Atma is one, non-dual, nirvishesha, devoid of sukha dukkha, for them Atma cannot become the vachya, the direct meaning of any shabda. Jneyatvam cha atmanas sada. So, Tika says, Yesham mate eka eva atma sada nirdukkhadi lakshmi nirdukha avikriya. Abhivagata. So those meaning Vedantins, Abhyugata, who accept Atma as one, non-dual, devoid of any sorrow, and so forth. Tesham syat shabdavachyatvam na. Tesham na syat. The na, so the first line comes second to second line. Tesham na syat shabdavachyatvam. For Tesham means for them, for Vedantins. Sabdavachyatvam, Jneyatvam chana syat. Atma cannot become the direct or immediate meaning of any word. Nor can Atma therefore become the knowable or object of knowledge. Paramasada. So this is what it is that yes, so we are also stuck, looks like. Vedantin has to accept now. You want to claim that Atma is ekaha, advitiyaha, nirdukkaha, nirvisheshaha. You yourself have shown how no word can primarily apply to Atma such as that. So then what are we, so where are we? So yes, we accept this. Atma cannot become the vachyartha, the immediate meaning of any word. Because of what we accept Atma to be as ekaha, advitiyaha, nirdukha, satyam, jnanamanantam. So that's one way of explaining that verse. Tika says yadva, or you can explain that verse. Atmani mukhya shabda pravati abhavamuktam. Or you can put it this way, that with the verses that we have looked at so far, those verses have established that Atma cannot be the mukhya, direct meaning of any word. Cannot be vachyartha. Vyatireka mukhen upadayati, or it is the same thing is upadayati, is logically explained in a reverse way, contrary way, vyatireka mukhena. Nayesham ekayavatma nirdukho avikriya. Yesham mate ekayava yatha nirdishatma na bhavati. Tesham shabdavachyatvam niyatvam, so other. Or those who do not accept Atma as one, non-dual, nirvishesha, for them Atma can become the vachyartha of a word. So those who accept Atma as ekaha, advitiya, nirdukha, for them Atma cannot be the immediate meaning of any word. Or those who don't accept Atma as one, non-dual, nirdukha, for them Atma can be the vachyartha, the immediate meaning of a word. So both ways you can say. Tatra kartradivatpate sambhavad. How? Because then if Atma is changing, not one, not changeless, then can be changing, can be karta, then karta utpatti can apply. Tatra kartradi vyatpate sambhavad. In Atma such as that which is savishesha. There the word karta can apply directly, jnata can apply directly. Then that Atma can become the meaning of the word jnata, jnanam, etc. in the sense of the karta vyatpatti. Natu ekatmavade shraute tatsam. So this verse can be interpreted two ways. That those who do not accept Atma as one, non-dual, changeless, for them Atma can become the vachyartha, immediate meaning of words such as jnanam, etc. But those who accept Atma as one, non-dual, nirvishesha, nirdukha, for them Atma cannot be the immediate meaning of any word. Then what are we doing? Tarhi astu. So now we are stuck. So what are you talking about? What are you leading to? You yourself are accepting that word jnanam cannot apply to Atma, then what are you leading to? So another propositions are given. Tarhi astu shabdasa mukhyattvaya savikareva Atma. But the fact remains that Upanishad is communicating Atma through words such as jnanam. And word jnanam, satyam, none of them can apply to nirvishesha Atma or nirvikara Atma. And still Upanishad uses the word. So why not is Atma is savikara? Your opinion that Atma ekaha, advitiya, nirdukha does not lend itself to the direct meaning of the words. But the words are used by Shruti anyway. Therefore, we think that better is that you give up your conclusion and shabdartha mukhyattvaya, because you justify the fact that Shruti is teaching through words. All this discussion came that Atma cannot be the meaning of a word. Then what are they doing? Upanishads are communicating through words only. So let us put it this way, to justify or explain what Upanishads are doing, let us say that Atma can be vachyartha of a word, meaning that it can be savishesha. Savikaraha, savishesha, sopadikaha. Then the word can apply immediately to Atma as a vachyartha. The shankate, why not? So different propositions are taken up, analyze and eliminate by law of elimination. Looks like Vedanta is putting himself into a corner. But then he accepts it. That all possible explanations are taken into consideration, none of them is applicable. Then you have to come to us and we will tell you. But all possible explanations are because Shruti is teaching through words and people know Atma also through that. So knowledge takes place also as reality because of the experience of the wise. Shruti communicates through words also is well known. And Atma cannot be immediate meaning of every word also is what being established. And Atma is nirvishesh also is what we accept. So he says, why not accept Atma as savishesha? Iti Shankare. Because Shruti is teaching through words, and words are to communicate and create knowledge of Atma. The only way it can be done is Atma is savishesha, savikara. Because word can only mean that is a changing entity. Because, see, words are all derived from our vyavahara. In vyavahara, what we have is everything is changing. Everything is created, perishable and changing. Therefore, what a word can convey must be that which is created, which is changing, which is perishable. So let us say, why not Atma also is savikara? Then the Shruti's words will apply directly. Then Shruti is this whole activity or pursuit of communicating Atma will make sense, otherwise it doesn't make sense. So next one says, Yadahankarturatmatvam tada shabdartha mukhyata नाशनायादि मत्वात्तु श्रुतौ तस्यात्मश्लेष्यते. यदा अहंकर्तुः आत्मत्वं Bhattamata, the Atma, Ahankartuhu. That Atma is Ahankarta, Ahankara is Atma. If that is the opinion that Atma is Ahankarta, Ahankara is Atma, that's fine. Tada Shabdartha Mukhyata, then these words will apply in a primary sense. They cannot apply in a primary sense to Ahankara. So, in order for the words, the justification of Upanishad, in using words to convey Atma, if you want to justify that, then we have to accept that Atma is Ahankarta, Ahankara is Atma, then that will work all right. Unfortunately, Yashanaya Pipase Shokam Moham Jara Mrityam Attedi. But Upanishad also says Atma is beyond Ashanaya, Pipasa, hunger and thirst and grief and delusion and old age. Means Atma is Nirdharmaka. Shruto, so Shruti says Atma is Satyam Jnana. Shruti also says Atma is devoid of hunger and thirst and all attributes, samsara dharma. So how will you then reconcile with that? So Tika says Ahankarta ityadi abhimanyamana akarasya. Ahankarta ityadi abhimana, abhimanyamana. One who has abhimanam, the notion that I am Ahankarta, I am a doer. Tasya atmatvameva, but that cannot be Atma, even though the word of Shruti can directly apply to Ahankarta, but then there are other problems. Because what Atma, Shruti says about Atma? So second line says, Na ashanayadi matvattu, unfortunately, Ahankara is incomplete, is and therefore inadequate, lacking, wanting, desiring, hungry, thirsty, possess all samsara dharmas. So Ahankara can become the immediate meaning of the word, all right, but that fellow won't satisfy other qualifications that are stated by Shruti elsewhere. So you have to reconcile everything. Ahang ityadi, so nasti pari na, second line, na ashanayadi matvattu, yo ashanaya pipase, shokam moham, jaram mrityam attedi, tam etam vaitim atmana viditva brahmanaha putreshranayasya lokeshranayasya vitteshranayasya vyuthaya atha bhikshacharyam charanti. So Upanishad Brihadaranyaka says, how about that? Iti shrutau atmanah ashanayadi atitattva svabhavya avagamat. So from that statement of Shruti, avagamat, we then understand that Atma is devoid of these samsara attributes of hunger and thirst, etc. So how do we reconcile with that? If in order for the direct meaning of word to apply to Atma, you accept Atma as Ahankarta. The elsewhere Shruti says that Atma also is beyond hunger and thirst. So how do we reconcile it? Because Ahankarta is hungry and thirsty. The Kartrutva is there. Ashanayadi dharvatvat ahankartu Ashanayadi dharmatvat ahankartu kama. See, ahankarta is possessed of ashanayadi, hunger and thirst. Tasya atmata naishyate yojana. Therefore, tasya ahankartu, that ahankarta cannot be atma. Because you are taking shabda and then arriving at nature of atma. That shabda can apply primarily of atma is ahankarta. But elsewhere it says atma is devoid of ashanaya. So that also has to be reconciled. So ahankarta cannot be. अतः ज्ञान शब्दः आत्मनि न साक्षात् प्रवर्तन्ते. Therefore, the word jnanam etc. cannot immediately, directly, in a primary sense apply to Atma. Then what? What are you saying? Asma iti abhasa dvarta asmadukta. Therefore, we have this concept of abhasa. That is why Vedanta has created the model of chidabhasa. With chid also and abhasa also. That satya and mithya, combination of both of them, can lead you to the knowledge of Atma. We don't say that that is Atma. But then all words will primarily apply to chidabhasa, and then through that, by lakshana vritti, you know the Atma. This is Vedanta's model. Abhasa dvarta asmadukta. Therefore, abhasa dvarta. Abhasa dvaram. Abhasa becomes dvaram, or gateway for the knowledge, for the words to lead you to the knowledge of Atma. Even the words do not directly have meaning of Atma, the words can lead you to knowledge of Atma, because words will first strike the Chidabhasa. So, Jnanam, Satyam, all of these can apply to Chidabhasa. You say, wait a minute, this is not Satyam. Nam atra bhogyam pashyami. I don't, this is not Satyam, Jnanam. But Shruti says, this is Satyam Jnanam. And therefore, whatever is the mithya part, that is what enables you to do the nishedha. Neti neti. What is nishedha? Negation of what does not satisfy the meaning of Satyam in Chidabhasa. So therefore you drop that. And thus you arrive at your own self. So this is the Vedanta's prakriya of how the Shruti communicates and creates in you the knowledge of the self. Nanu yadi evam uktaritya yadi janati adehe atmani anyatra cha mukhyata na sambhavati. Evam uktaritya, by the riti that you have stated, bacche ki kapai jais karo. Uktaritya, by the method in which you explain, yadi janatyadehe, so janati ityadehe atmani, so janati, the knows or jnanakarta cannot be Atma, and cannot be buddhi also because it is unconscious. Atmani anyatra cha mukhyata na sambhavet. So Vedantin said that no entity will satisfy this description of janati. Atma cannot satisfy janati. Buddhi cannot satisfy janati, be unconscious. So all we have is Atma and the Buddhi antahkaranam. So na mukhyata. Tarhi vrityantarenapi atmani prahuti anupanna. Then already, if mukhyat is not applicable, then lakshyat also will not be applicable. Now the Purvapakshi says anya vrityantarena. Vrityantara. First is mukhya, other is the lakshanartha. So then by other vritti also, if the word cannot lead you to anything, then how can the implied meaning also is possible? Nai kvapi amukhyam kvachit upacharyate sambhavati. Because Amukyam, what is not primary cannot be the meaning of a word, therefore a word should lead to what is primary. But primarily what does not lead to Atma, not lead to Buddhi. Hantatarhi. Then these Purvapakshis, you are in a very bad position, Hantatarhi iti chaturvihi. So 4 verses are stated here by the Purvapakshi, and he sympathizes with you. You led yourself in a position that there is no explanation available to you. So, Chaturvihi. And he sympathizes with you in 4 verses. So, this is the style. You are putting yourself into corner in a way by eliminating all possible explanations. And then say, all right, this is what we want. Vedantin says that things do not make sense, is bhushanam natu dushanam. Because all this creation, etc., when Lord Krishna says, Prakritim swamavastabhya visrujami punah punah, controlling my Prakriti, I create again and again and sustain and dissolve. Then you are a Mahasamsari. You create these miserable things. Nachamam tani karmani nibadnanti, but hey Arjuna, in spite of this, they do not bind me. Now this is contradictory. So then what is it then? This is Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti Suyate. I am just Adhyaksha. So Kartrutvam is not in Atma nor in Prakriti. The Sastrutvam or the creatorship does not primarily to Atma or Bhagavan. He says Maya Adhyakshena. And Prakriti is unconscious, also cannot be. So this Kartrutva cannot explain in the whole universe. Understand? This Kartrutvam, etc. cannot be explained. Srastrutvam cannot be explained. That there is some Ishvara, on first day he creates, etc. That won't stand any kind of logic. Although not that they don't have logic, they also have. Don't think that they have not thought, they have thought tremendously, and they have proper explanation, all of them. But if you take these kind of immediate meanings, then you ridicule them. But what I'm saying is that this immediate meanings will not apply. So they also have arrived at how to explain all those statements of the Bible, and that Genesis, the creation, etc. And then still Father in heaven. Everything also they have their own, because there also the scholars have done a lot of work to dwell upon and deliberate upon these words and apply them with the logic, etc., and arrive at their own explanations. But if you just take if you take the gross meaning, then they don't make sense, which no scripture will make sense. So anyway, that is why. So let us read one verse here. Hantatarhina mukhyartha napi gaunah kathanchana janatityadi shabdasya gatirvachya tathapitu. Hanta is unfortunate, sad. Tarhi mukhyartha napi gaunah kathanchana janati adi shabdasya. So janati, the word janati or jnanam, ityadi shabdasya, the words that the Shruti uses. Mukhyartha, in primary sense it cannot apply Atma. Then gauna, how can secondary meaning be there when primary is not there? That's the idea here. Gauna means what? Secondary. And mukhya is primary. So figurative meaning or secondary meaning can be there, provided a word has primary meaning. So Simho Devadatta, you say, Devadatta is a lion. You look at Devadatta is what? But then the word lion must have primary meaning, and Devadatta also has primary meaning. Then in case of Devadatta, lion has a gauna meaning, secondary meaning, because Devadatta has something, some similarity to the lion, so you call him lion. He belongs to Lions Club, nothing else, probably. But point is that gauna or secondary meaning can be there provided there is primary meaning. You are saying that there is primary meaning does not apply to Atma, so there can be secondary meaning also. So vrutyantarena. What is vrutyantara? Gauna vrutti. So lakshyartha also is gauna vrutti. So vachyartha is primary meaning and then lakshyartha is second. The only two meanings are accepted by Vedanta. The poets will accept some other meanings, but Vedanta accepts only two meanings of the word, vachyartha and lakshyartha. The Kavis have all kalpanas, etc., but that doesn't come into Vedanta. So Vedanta has two meanings, vachyartha and lakshyartha. Lakshyartha can be that. When there is vachyartha to begin with? Gangayam Ghosha, there is this helmet, or Hamlet rather, on Ganga. Then Hamlet also must have primary meaning, Ganga also must have primary meaning. Then you have secondary meaning as the Ganga Tiram, But Ganga doesn't mean anything. Hamlet doesn't mean anything. Then how do you arrive at the secondary meaning? If word should have primary meaning, then only there can be gauna meaning. You say that no word primarily applies to Atma, then how can the gauna meaning also apply to Atma? Tari vrityantarena api atmani prahuti anupanna. If no word primarily applies to Atma, then Vrityantara, by other vritti meaning gauna vritti also, that pravritti can be there provided mukhya vritti is there. Mukhya vritti doesn't apply, then gauna vritti is there. Naikavi amukhyam kachit upacharyadeti. What is not there cannot have any gauna meaning. There is no Ganga. But Ganga means, but Ganga doesn't have a meaning. If word Ganga has a meaning, namely Pravaha, then the word Pravaha does not apply, then you go to Ganga Tira. But Ganga doesn't mean Gagabungang. Then if the primary meaning is not there, how can there be secondary meaning? Hantatarhi na mukhyartha napi gauna kathanchana. Hey Vedantin, therefore from what you say, there is no mukhyartha, no primary meaning there, no other meaning also can be there. Napi gauna. The gauna, the figurative meaning also cannot be. Of what janati ityadi shabdasya. So jnanam shabda, janati shabda primarily cannot apply and therefore secondary also cannot apply. Katiri vachya, but then word janati is used. We say primary meaning cannot be there. So we say secondary meaning also cannot be there. Therefore, how does Shruti convey about the word jnanam? Iti vachya. Then you have to explain to us. If primary meaning is not applicable, how other meaning applicable? Vachya, that is what you have to do. Meaning you can't do that. But then, so this is what you have to do. He doesn't think you can do. So this is like playing a game of chess. You make a move, it will make a move, except that good chess players, can in fact predict 40. There was this fellow, Russian fellow. He could predict 40 moves. What this fellow can do, this was a computer. By permutation combination, he could figure out 40 possible moves on the part of then he'll make a move. Not like you and I that we only know one or two or three. So here also Vedantin seems to guess, what possible moves are there. And very comfortably dealing with him. It looks like he's trapped. Looks like he's, what do you call it? Huh? No. No, what trap? Checkmate, exactly. He's checkmated. Looks like it. And then he finds a way out. Checkmated, finds a way out. This is how you can imagine this kind of arguments going. And so, very interesting way. So, we'll continue. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ। प्रसाद छे बाबा।